Okay, it's time to overcome my laziness and film this second part to the update, which has nothing to do with the first part, by the way. If you're watching this before part one, I mean, they're not exactly, they don't have anything to do with each other, so you could watch this first if you like, or you could do whatever you want, but this, I don't know if this is necessary to explain. I just felt the last time I filmed, well, when I filmed part one, I said something like this towards the end, I believe. I haven't edited it yet, but I wasn't really that happy with it. And so I said something like, I'm gonna have to come back and finish this later, which I never did. And so I just thought that I'll upload that as part one, and then I'll upload this as part two to sort of take attention away from part one, which I wasn't very happy with, which is exactly what you want to do, by the way. When you upload videos for YouTube, you want to remove attention from the video, contrary to popular belief that you want to, get people to watch them. You actually want to do the opposite. Anyway, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't that happy with it, and I would prefer to upload a couple videos at the same time for that reason. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it only makes sense to me. But anyway, that's that. Now we're gonna get started with the update. I don't know if I said, but it's been, I think, I'm ashamed to say, but a few months since I filmed part one, so a lot of stuff has piled up. As always, I won't get through it all, and as always, I will not even end up talking about all of it because I don't necessarily have things to say about them all. But I'm gonna get through as much as I can here. I suppose I can quickly start with this. I have shown a few things before. I made a haul a year ago, a bit more than that, in which I showed a whole bunch of things, including things that I hadn't seen yet. But this one, John Ford at Columbia Indicator box set, The Whole Town's Talking, Long Grey Line, Gideon's Day, and The Last Hurrah. This wasn't my absolute favorite of the box sets from Indicator, but I did like the films for the most part. I would say that I like them all, but no favorites here. As a box set, there has been box sets from Indicator that, that have, I don't know, created memorable experiences for me, or as an overall experience, the box set has been memorable in some way that I didn't feel this was, but that probably just comes down to my own tastes of genre and stuff. These ones are not westerns, as John Ford is mostly known for, I suppose, but The Whole Town's Talking is from 1935, so quite a lot older than the other ones. But stars Edward G. Robinson. He plays two characters. Then we have Jean Arthur as well in a side role, and I remember liking her in Only Angels Have Wings, so I was happy to see her in another film. I don't think I have seen Edward G. Robinson in a film. I know about his persona, and he plays that persona in the film, but he also plays another character, and I thought that the other character was more interesting. This one I liked. I had a fun time with it. Long Grey Line, I believe it said 1955 on the back just now when I looked. This one was probably my favorite out of these. It's a biopic. This Irish guy working in the military. I don't know the details. I don't remember them, but traces his time in the sort of serving in the military, not as a a soldier, but sort of on the side of it. Pretty poor explanation, but this one was good. It takes place over a few decades, and it ends up being quite moving. Gideon's Day, I don't know. This was almost a comedy in some way. Not a huge dramatic plot, but rather it follows this guy played by Jack Hawkins on a day in his job in the what is it? I'm blanking on the Scotland Yard. That's it. Yeah. So he has a few few things to solve, a few errands to run, so to speak, and then he leaves home in the morning, comes back in the evening, and it's okay. This one, probably the one that I feel like I should rewatch out of these. The Last Hurrah, Spencer Tracy. Not my favorite thing in the world, but I may like it better on a second watch. So these, I would say, were good films. I'm absolutely not gonna sell this, as I sometimes do with things that I wasn't crazy about. But so far, I haven't really sold many indicator titles because I like them so much. And this is obviously a terrific box set. Let's see. I saw this last night. Night Moves, Kelly Reichardt. I saw Meek's Cutoff and Wendy and Lucy many years ago. Didn't really get as much out of them as I think I would get out of them now, so I would like to rewatch them. But I did see Certain Women not too long ago, which I really did love. Night Moves. For a while I thought this was a remake of the old film with Gene Hackman from the 70s, which I haven't seen, so I didn't really know. It just seemed like a title, a fairly specific title. I don't know exactly if there's a reason why they have the same title, if it just happens to be, if it's, maybe it has nothing to do with each other. Maybe there's another reason, whatever. Yeah, it's easy to call, Jesse Eisenberg not the most charismatic actor in the world. He is the right person for the role in this film because he has to play this kind of subdued character who experiences quite a lot of paranoia after this botched. It's a terrorist attempt, really, not at people, but I don't know what else you would call it. But they are environmentalists. Is that the word? And they seek to they want to blow up the dam because it's sort of fucking with the wildlife. And then there's a mishap that causes something else to happen, leads them to look over their shoulder. Obviously, they would have had to do that anyway, but something more significant happens than the blowing up of the dam. I think that synopses and stuff, they always reveal too much, so I'm not going to say more than that. But I didn't like it as much as Certain Women. I didn't. I was kind of familiar with that going into it. That it's not her most popular film. Not a bad one. It just seemed to be going in one direction, and then it went into that direction. And then it ended in a place that it could have ended differently, and people have praised the ending, and I suppose that's fair. But to me, it wasn't really anything beyond what I was expecting, and I can't say that people that they've praised his performance. I personally would have preferred to see more of Dakota Fanning's character, but he did a good job. He was probably right for the role. But I certainly didn't dislike it. I just thought it was a bit slow, to be honest. And slow doesn't have to mean that it's paced slow. It just means that it's a bit dull in some places. But yeah, I do want to get the film First Cow, which Mubi has actually put out on Blu-ray. I have been wanting to get the streaming service subscription for a while, which I still haven't. But they have been putting out some Blu-rays recently. And speaking of them, Mubi, am I saying that right? Bacurau. This is a film by Kleber Mendonça Filho. I've tried to say his name before. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but he made Neighboring Sounds, which I saw not too long ago, and Aquarius after that, which I saw earlier. Anyway, I've seen both of those, and I quite like both of those, and I quite like this too. They're all good movies. This is pretty different from those. They are mainly dramas. There's some a thriller aspect to Neighboring Sounds, but this is definitely more of a sort of half dystopian Western thriller. Quite violent, quite unique, definitely a good one. I should mention that two directors are billed here, but I have to admit that I am not familiar with this person. I probably should have looked it up after I saw the film. I do have a few. Let's see, I can show this one next. Paranoia, 88 films. I need to clean up the slipcover. I'm noticing. Carol Baker. I don't know if I've seen her in anything else. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's an Italian. I'm not sure if it's dusty in here, but I'm on the verge of not sneezing, but you know when you can't quite speak properly, you can't breathe in through your nose. I think it's dust from the DVDs that I just pulled down. Anyway, sorry, this is an Italian film directed by I wanna say Sergio Martino. I'm so sorry. Umberto Lenzi directed this, and it does take place in it. Well, yeah, it's supposed to take place in Italy, but some of these Italian films, I guess they've been marketed for America as well. So they made this film with I don't know. I don't remember the details. They do talk about it on the Blu-ray. They made another film with the title Paranoia in mind, but then it was released in the US under a different title. But then they decided that they wanted a film called Paranoia, so they made another one with, I think, maybe with Carol Baker, both of them. And that was released in the US. No, am I fucking... Is it... It might be the other way around. Okay, I'm gonna skip that. The point is that they released two films, sort of designed for the US market, or one of them was, but I wish I had recorded this video sooner because I forget the details. But I think this one is known as A Quiet Place to Kill. So that might be the American title for this, and then the previous one was titled Paranoia, but the Italian title for the previous one was something else. Whatever. So there has been some confusion regarding the title, because there's two films with the same title, and again, I think they may be starring Carol Baker, both of them, although that could be wrong. But this is the second one they made, and anyway, it's not exactly a giallo, which it has been referred to. I don't know if I would. It feels like a pretty standard thriller, kind of a mystery thriller. Not really a mystery, well, to some extent. I liked it. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but it's very entertaining. It's well done. A lot of suspenseful scenes. Carol Baker was good. The sceneries are good. The settings has this kind of Riviera feeling. At least I thought so. Oh, here's a film that I was sent by. I think I might have shown this before, but you know who you are if you're watching. Funuke, Show Some Love, You Losers. I think that this Third Window DVD has been upgraded to Blu-ray just recently. This one, among a few that you sent, and I'm very thankful for that. This one was good. Very quirky, sort of a dark drama. Quirky is a very overused word, and I'm probably guilty of that as well. But I would call some of this quirky. There are a few really funny scenes involving, to me, especially the wife here. Wife slash sort of, she almost feels like a maid. She has that role next to her very abusive and unlikable husband. Yeah, this I really did enjoy this. And speaking of Third Window, I do have a few other ones that I can show. Here's one called Hanagatami by Obayashi. What's his first name? Nobuhiko Obayashi. He made House. He probably is the most known for House. But this one was a film that he wanted to make before House. And finally he was able to bring his vision to the screen. And I think this came out in 2016, 2017. And while he made this, he found out that he had cancer. and that this was likely going to be the last film he made. But I think he made another one after this. I suppose he might have lived beyond the prognosis and was able to complete another film, even though for this one he wasn't able to be present for all of the filming. But it's still pretty clear that he had a vision for this. Somebody suggested that all of this he probably had all the scenes in his mind already, because he had been wanting to make this film for so long, which, I mean, I don't know if that's true, obviously, but could very well be. Speaking of visuals, it has such a unique style. It's sort of almost a melodrama. It is a melodrama, but it's a pretty conventional story told in a very experimental way, you might say, and it's an anti-war statement. It's incredibly powerful. This I never do this, and especially with films closing in on 3 hours. But I saw this one day. I was so moved and intrigued by it that I had to come back to it the second day. So I saw it again the second day, and the second day I actually kind of bawled a little bit. Bawled. Well, I cried watching it, which doesn't happen that often. But the ending got to me the second time, especially. It's incredibly powerful. There are some sound bites and some visuals that are sort of burned into my mind, and I don't think they're gonna leave. So if you haven't seen this, I really would highly suggest it. It took me a while to get into it. Excuse me. The first half hour or so, I was really trying to see what the film was attempting to do, because I was struggling a little bit with some of the characters and some of the exaggerated acting and some of the a lot of it involved the characters and the way they behaved. It does eventually make sense, a lot of this stuff that I didn't like in the beginning. So I would say that, you know, it might be completely different for you if you decide to watch this, but or if you already have. But for me, it took me a while to get into it. But once I did, and I understood what I think the film tried to do, it ended up being very powerful. So again, I would highly recommend watching that. Bullet Ballet, Shinya Tsukamoto. He's a little bit hit or miss for me. I haven't disliked anything outright, but I have been on the fence about a few of them. But I've also really loved some of them, like Kotoko and Denshu Koso, as well as, you know, Killing, I think it was called, and Haze, just to name a few that I really like. Then, you know, we have films like this, Bullet Ballet and A Snake of June, and Tokyo Fist, that I like and I would watch several times, but they haven't been as powerful for me anyway. But I do like him very much as a director. There's a couple other ones. Speaking of, actually, I forgot to say that there is another film, or two films, actually three films. One of them is Hanagatami, that are scheduled for a box set, if I understand things correctly, from Third Window. So two other ones, I forget the titles of them, but I'm definitely gonna have to sell that to buy that, and I guess I'm gonna sell on this Blu-ray as long as the extras are the same on the box set, but I assume they will be. So I suppose I could mention that if you are interested in this, there should be a box set coming up pretty soon with this one and two other ones, and I really am looking forward to that. Same thing goes for this, or for this director, Shinya Tsukamoto. They have released a couple films recently, or they're about to release one of them, and they have released another one, whatever. I'm blanking on the titles, but yeah, so there's more stuff coming out from these two filmmakers. And then here's a film that I really didn't know what to expect from. Ruined Heart, another love story between a criminal and a whore. It's a Filipino film. It's made by the filmmaker Khan. I don't know how to say that. but I've never heard of this film before, really. It doesn't seem like a lot of people have talked about it, but it does seem like a film that the people who have seen it and the people who like it, they really do love it. Christopher Doyle is actually the cinematographer for this, which is pretty interesting. This is a really good release, by the way. The film is very unique in that it uses music mainly as the soundtrack. There's not really any dialogue to speak of. There's no dialogue to speak of. But there's more of a focus on a feeling and a mood within the individual scenes. They almost present themselves as art pieces, individual little art pieces, contained within this pretty basic storyline. And so the film shows that you can tell a very basic story without giving much detail, and utilizing music and choreography and scenery in a very sort of expressionistic way to create something new. And it's an interesting film for sure that I would recommend. Let's see. Here's a film called Post Tenebras Lux, which I guess means after darkness there's light, or light after darkness. I guess. Well, the Swedish text here means that. I think this has been. God. I know that this has been put out on Blu-ray in the UK, but it's out of print and a little bit difficult to get for a good price. But I was able to find a Swedish DVD very cheap. Carlos Regadas is the director of this. He made Our Time and Silent Light, both of which I've seen and thoroughly liked. He's made other films that I haven't seen as well that I'd like to see. But this one was really interesting. This one is maybe more experimental visually than the other two. Maybe not thematically necessarily, or maybe a little bit actually. It's more surreal and more kind of it sort of had this magical element to it, and it's up there with the other two. I would say it is maybe a little bit more difficult in some respects, maybe a little bit more abstract than the other two. Certainly more abstract than Our Time, and Silent Light has some abstraction to it for sure. But this one goes beyond and explores something slightly different, something sort of metaphysical, I suppose the word might be. It's I mean, I thoroughly, I really like this director. I'd like to see the other two he's made. Hapon, I don't think I'm saying that correctly, as well as Battle in Heaven, two films that are available on DVD. So I'd like to get those. Actually, the previous one, Hapon, is released by Criterion on Blu-ray, but I do not have the possibility or the capability of watching Region A Blu-rays, so I'm gonna have to get the DVD for now. Okay, the next one, as I feel my voice going, is Beau Travail. Claire Denis film. I may have shown this before, I don't remember, but in case I haven't, I just want to say that I've seen this. It's been a while now. I think it's been like a year since I saw. Why would I not have shown this? Maybe I just forgot about it, or maybe I have and I've forgotten that I have. But just to be safe, I want to say that I love this film. The ending really moved me so deeply, and I haven't been able to forget about it ever since I saw it, whenever that was. A Jester's Tale, Carol Seman. I included this in an unboxing from Arrow some time ago, and I think I commented on the fact that this is torn in the bottom, but I replaced the case, and you can't really tell unless you know. But Karel Zeman, he is a Czech filmmaker, not part of the New Wave or anything, but he made films around that time, I suppose, maybe a bit earlier. And I've seen a few of them. I've seen 3 of them that subsequently have been put out by a second run on Blu-ray but I believe it's a Czech Blu-ray that I have, but it's English friendly. But this one was the first one that I saw since then, so it's been a number of years. What he does with animation mixed with live action is really interesting, and he uses sort of cutout animation some of the time and superimposes that with the live action in a way that it feels very unique, and it's quite obvious when you realize that somebody like Terry Gilliam has been influenced by him. And it's not my absolute favorite from him, but it's pretty much equally good as the other ones, pretty much. It is very fun, very entertaining story. Speaking of Czech films, this is part of the Czech New Wave. Closely Observed Trains, Jiří Menzel. Surprisingly, this was the first film that I saw from him. I saw the documentary Checkmate, a very long documentary released by Second Run that I would love to rewatch actually, because there's so much information in there. But Jiří Menzel, he is interviewed extensively in the film, so I've gotten to know him and his philosophy. So I guess it feels like I've seen his films, and they show clips obviously in the documentary. But this is the first one that I've seen in its entirety. It isn't one of my favorites actually. It's probably one of the more popular films from the Czech New Wave, but personally for my tastes it's not quite up there with some of the other ones that I've seen that I found to be interesting. Like Morgiana or Valerie and Her Week of Wonders, and films like that are more sort of imaginative with the supernatural or the surreal. This is more comedic and based in reality. It's certainly not just comedic. It's very, very dramatic as well. It's I suppose you could call it a black comedy. Yeah, I mean it's deserving of its status, obviously. And I'm just continuing to go very random in order here. Well, actually, as I say that, I'm gonna take another direction and show this one first. I was gonna show another film completely different, but then I spotted this one, which is much more in line with what I just talked about. So let me talk about this one first. Taking Off, Milos Forman. This is a Danish DVD, I think. So this Criterion film, I guess, is a line of DVDs that has been put out in Denmark, and a lot of these films, they haven't been available in Sweden. This one maybe have been at some point, but a lot of them haven't been. And so I've found a few of these over the years, and I always pick them up. There's some residue here from a sticker. I found this in a second-hand store. I was really happy to find it, because I've been watching Milos Forman's films recently, and it just worked out this way, that I was able to find Taking Off just after I've seen films like A Blonde in Love and Audition and Black Peter and Fireman's Ball, the 4 films he made in Czechoslovakia before the Prague Spring, which was basically the Russians coming in and imposing censorship and so on. And so a lot of filmmakers, they moved from Czechoslovakia, including Milos Forman. And this is the first film he made in America, and he's able to take everything he's done in Czechoslovakia and very proficiently translate that into the American sort of early 70s zeitgeist. And it really is, to me, this was remarkable. This was better than I was expecting. He continues to want to put emphasis on people without necessarily directing them too much. So you have musical performances and just showing off a wide range of people and their personalities and their singing voices. I assume they were just told to all sing this song, and then this clip was put together, and it feels very raw and real, and it feels like a documentary more than a drama. And his films in Czechoslovakia, they all had that feeling as well. and this one does too. And I suppose after this he would move away a little bit from that, because I think the film he made after this, I could be wrong, but I think he made One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest after this. At least he did shortly after this, and that's obviously a film with realism, but it's not as open in the sense that this one is. So I really love that he that he was able to do that one last time. That doesn't really sound too good, but anyway, I loved it. I don't even know what to say about it, but it's I just really liked it. Okay, and the one that I was going to talk about next, which is a little bit of a change of genre, is Vampiros Lesbos. Jess Franco. I don't like this title that much, but I like the movie more than I thought. I've always heard of Jess Franco, and I know a lot of genre fans love him. It must have been a decade ago at least that I, started to hear his name over and over from certain people on YouTube who like certain genre films that I just never did. But obviously my tastes they expand and they change, and I don't know, this kind of erotic genre film, sort of erotic exploitation, I guess. I haven't seen much of it because I have created the impression over the years that it's not really my kind of a thing. But over the past few years, I've definitely tried to watch all kinds of things that I haven't been watching too much before. And I feel like the past 5 years have been incredible for my movie discovery journey. Anyway, I found this in a secondhand store. I obviously wanted to buy it. $1. I can't resist that. And I watched it pretty quickly. Well, it doesn't matter. I watched it eventually. And yeah, this was better than I thought. This really was interesting. Not just as an erotic, sleazy exploitation vampire movie, but actually as something more than that too. As a quite emotional film, and with a film with pretty strong visual language. So I am intending to continue that journey with Jess Franco. There's a lot of it, I know, and a lot of it has been put out on physical media, so I got a lot of watching to do. But Venus in Furs, I believe, will be the next one. We have this one here that I've shown also, Daughter of Darkness, Hong Kong sort of exploitation, cop, black comedy. Not quite as interesting as I was hoping, but it's sort of divided up into 2 or 3 different sections, each with a unique feeling. The first third or whatever is sort of darkly comedic, and then the second one is violent, and then the third one is quite dramatic. Yeah, I for what it is, I liked it. I forget, I wasn't familiar with the term before, but the sort of R-rated or X-rated films of Hong Kong, they're called category 3 or some. I could be wrong, but something like that. And this one is part of that sort of genre, and I wasn't familiar with the term before. But I have seen quite a few of those, and I usually enjoy them. Speaking of, I don't know if this is considered one of them. I think it probably should be, but this is Hex. This is an 88 films release. Oh god, sorry, their first Asia Blu-ray, whatever. I've had this for a long time, like I don't know, 4 years at least, and I just recently saw it, and I've really liked everything else that I've seen from the Asia collection. I've only bought the horror movies, so Black Magic 1 and 2, and Seeding of a Ghost, and then which one was the other one? I'm blanking on the title, but all those 4 I've really had a lot of fun with. But Hex I wasn't as into. I really did like it for the first little bit, and then it shifted and it twisted, and then it kept doing that until I wasn't sure what was happening anymore, and I wasn't sure that I really cared anymore either. But it is a bit of a shame, because it definitely was fun, for a while. Well, it's fun all the way, but it just becomes a little bit weird at a certain point, and it lost me after a while. Here's a film, or two films actually, In the Realm of the Senses and Empire of Passion. And I was under the impression when I bought this a couple of years ago, I guess, that they were sequels, or that the second one was a sequel, which is not the case. It's just that the Swedish titles are quite similar. They both star the male actor, I don't know his name, apologies, but they both star him. The female leads are different, but yeah, the titles in Sweden are similar, and they came out around the same time as well. But In the Realm of the Senses is a pretty notorious film. Some people love it, some people hate it. I really liked it. I thought that the sexuality is very graphic, but it seemed to serve a purpose, and there's more to it than that. I feel there are some genuinely nice looking shots, and the same can be said for Empire of Passion, which is a different kind of movie. It's not as graphic sexually. It's more of a ghost story, again with some nice shots and an intriguing story. So I think I prefer In the Realm of the Senses if we should compare them. But I like both enough to want to get more of, what's his name, Kobayashi? No, it's not, is it? Oshima. Why did I say Kobayashi? Well, anyway, Oshima. Nagisa Oshima, I think. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I want to see more of his films because these were definitely interesting. Alright, another genre film here, Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS. This one, I don't know what to feel about it. It's shockingly graphic, actually, really vile, and it's very violent in a way that even I wasn't necessarily expecting. There's not much beyond that, beyond the violence. There's a little bit of a statement being made, but mainly it's an exploitation film. There's a ton of violence and not much else, and a lot of torture, and some of it is quite difficult to watch actually. So even I was not shocked by some of the scenes, but surprised how far they went. There's an audio commentary here as well with the star Diane Thorne and the filmmakers. And yeah, I mean, I would say that I liked it, but I'm also sort of on the fence. I don't really know. Another one that I could say that I'm on the fence about is this one, He-Man, or the Masters of the Universe, as the English title is. So unfortunately I didn't see this until watching it, but it does actually have some pretty significant damage to the disc, which it feels sticky, so I thought that I could remove this, but it's not possible. So unfortunately the last 10 minutes were not really, I couldn't really watch them properly. But until that point I had a lot of fun, and I didn't feel like I was robbed of the ending because I couldn't see it. It's that kind of a film, like, yeah, whatever. I sort of get it. I would have liked to see the whole thing, obviously, but it's not like if I were to see a dramatic film and I missed the resolution, then I would have been pissed, obviously. But yeah, I didn't see that in the store, and I think I would have still bought it because it's a quite difficult DVD to find, but I'm gonna have to hold on to this. Normally I would have sold it because I'm not gonna watch it again, and it's worth a little bit of money, but I can't sell a DVD that you can't watch properly. So yeah, I'm gonna hold on to it. Maybe I'll watch it again, who knows, but probably not because it's faulty. I had fun with I did have fun with it though, overall, what I could see, which was most of it, to be fair. But it's mediocre, to say the best. That's the best thing you can say about it. It's fun. Oh, and but okay, let's finish your thought first. It's fun, but it's nothing special. It's a cash-in by Canon, and it's I enjoyed it. right. Courtney Cox plays a big role in it, and she's really good. Like she really gives it her all. She's obviously a terrific actress, and yeah, years before Friends, she was in He-Man. Okay, I didn't know that going into it. All right, continuing on with 8 Hours Don't Make a Day, a family series. Fassbinder series from early 70s. I'm still sort of in disbelief almost as to how prolific he was able to be, and still, I mean, he made so many films that it puts most filmmakers to shame who worked all their life. Yet he died when he was like 37. So I think he was like 26, maybe, when he made this. Which is, yeah, it's a TV series in, I forget how many parts, 5 parts. Yeah, I believe that they meant to make 8, which Tony Raines very eloquently says. Well, he he's very engaging in his interviews, and there's an interview with Tony Raines here on the Blu-ray. Yeah, an appreciation here, and he says as much. He says that it was intended to be, I think, 8 parts, and he reveals what happened later on. But we have 5 here that was actually filmed, and they are sort of their own little movies. They're all titled different names. The titles of the episodes are sort of vague, or it's not necessarily focusing on these people only. There's a couple episodes where the title, the characters in the title, they're not necessarily the biggest part of the episode, but maybe they have more time than they've had before, and so on. But for the most part, it's a sprawling family drama, sort of a realistic sort of drama focusing on the mundane. And all of the characters, they're present at all times. But Jochen with an N, and Marion, they are sort of the 2 main characters. And he's a working person, trying to make a living. They all are really. It's certainly political as well, but it's personal more than anything. Some of it presents itself as a bit of a soap opera. Stylistically, it's sort of stylistically it takes a back seat in favor of the characters, but there are some very interesting decisions in regards to the filmmaking. But the main part is the characters and what they go through. It is a very engaging series. I don't know if I have any favorite episodes. I like the one with Grandma and Gregor. It did throw me off a little bit that Grandma, she was supposed to be Jochen's grandmother, but she looks more like his mother's age, maybe. She was about 30 years older, I think. But there's a few age differences here that doesn't really make much sense, which tends to be like a pet peeve of mine in movies, when actors or characters, they are clearly too close in age for the mother-daughter relationship, for example, to feel real. And there's a little bit like that in here, a few things like that in here, but it's usually not a big problem. And you can easily overlook that. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, to be honest. I haven't seen much from Fassbinder. I've seen Fear Eats the Soul, and I'd like to see more. I do have Berlin Alexanderplatz on Blu-ray from Second Sight, but I haven't seen it yet. But I'd like to do so now, obviously after seeing this. There's a part in the second episode with Grandma and Gregor, which is her sort of boyfriend, that she meets him early on in the series, and she notices the children playing on the streets. They have nothing really to do, and so she decides to to attempt to open up like a daycare center, like a a daycare center. But she's having some problems doing this, and so she decides to just do it anyway. And that was really engaging. And so it does have obviously a sort of a social, political theme throughout, and there are other things like that as well involving involving politics. But it's mostly focusing on the characters. I liked it certainly. I thought that it was good enough to to be moved by, to be entertained by. The characters, they were all fleshed out, and their situations were believable and engaging. But I'm not sure that it's for everyone. Some of it I was a little bit bored by, but for the most part I really did enjoy it. Let's see. Boy, film by Taika Waititi. Really imaginative. The way this opens, what this is able to pack in the first 5 minutes is really something, and it's able to come out in the end as a really moving film about a flawed father played by Taika Waititi. He's incredibly flawed to the point where it's quite exaggerated in the beginning, but he's clearly he's loving as well. He just he's got problems, and the boy, his son, he was so good in this. He really was believable. And I don't know. I think I read something about how the fact that they cast somebody else for this role, and it didn't work out. And then just by chance, he happened to be around. It was one of those stories. I don't really remember exactly, but he just happened to be cast, and he was absolutely phenomenal. It's a genuinely funny movie. You could watch this over and over. There's a lot of quirky stuff in this. Oh, there's I have to tell you, I don't know if I normally do this or if you should do this, but I do have to tell you about one of the scenes. The film opens presenting the characters, and there's one character played by, I don't know her name, but she has been in a couple of other films by YTD, or at least one. I think she was in Hunt for the Wilder People, I think is the title. And she's presented as being both the postwoman, the bus driver for the children, the tennis teacher for the kids, I guess, and operating the local sort of convenience store. And she says at one point, like, oh, somebody wants a free ice cream, I think, and she's like, no, get a job. And then the kid responds, well, I can't because you got them all. That really cracked me up. So there are some genuinely really funny stuff in this. I really would recommend it. Okay, I think at this point it sort of comes down to the space on my phone, because I could go on for a while longer. Let's just see. Let's talk about a few more. Poetry. Lee Chang-dong, South Korean film that I saw many years ago, 10 years ago I think it must have been, or close to that anyway, maybe not quite that long. But I wanted to see the film again because I found the DVD cheap, and I wasn't expecting to be so moved by it. It's an unbelievable film. The ending is, again, it's so haunting. It's one of those things that I'll never forget, and it's so understated and so beautiful and so well acted by these actors here, who I think came out of retirement for this role. I don't know if she made anything else beyond this. I think could be one of those instances where somebody who quit acting in the 80s or 90s came back for one last role. I believe it could be one of those cases. She plays the grandmother to somebody who's been accused of a gang rape, and then the girl who was raped, she committed suicide. And this obviously, the mother is not currently present, so this obviously deeply troubles her. and meanwhile she finds out that she has dementia, Alzheimer's, and she starts writing poetry, and she struggles quite a lot with it. It's a pretty long film, well, not that long, just over 2 hours. There's never a dull moment, never a scene that feels misplayed. Maybe just a couple things that I'm not sure that I completely love, but for the most part, the way this is played and acted, the way it doesn't tell you too much, but it tells you enough. I was so moved by this, and I really would recommend it very highly. Yeah. Now here's a film that this was really something in many ways. It stands out in my mind as this unique film in a way that you want from cinema. But then there are a few things about it that I was on the fence about. But ultimately, I think I really, really like this. It's called Stranger by the Lake in English. It's a French film. It's an erotic, queer, gay film. It takes place on a beach by this wonderful place. It's a beach. It's a nudist. I think they talk about it in the film. It's like I don't know that it's an unofficial nudist beach, but it's like known that this is where you go if you want to hook up, and if you're gay and male. And so it's a beach. It's like a bay area. There's forests. A great place visually, and it's such a warm film. And when I say warm, I refer to the physical aspect of the naked bodies bathing in the sun, together. And it becomes a very warm film, and a really unique film as well. Then there's somebody who falls in love. The main character falls in love with this other very mysterious kind of fascinating character, and they sort of want different things, but they both want to be together in some fashion. But then there's this, and they only meet on the beach. There's no scenes outside of this place. The furthest away they get from the beach is the car park adjacent to the beach. So, but then there's this potentially crime, maybe an accident that happens involving somebody who's drowning, and somebody may or may not be involved, and somebody else may or may not know more than they say, or they might realize that this person could be involved, but he likes the person enough to kind of overlook it somehow. Anyway, there's a lot of really interesting, fascinating themes in this, and visually it's absolutely gorgeous. It's quite graphic. I mean, there's a couple of graphic scenes, sort of hardcore scenes, which, I mean, whatever. It's nothing I have a problem with, but it might be worth saying. Let's see here. Okay, so here is a really... I feel like I've shown this before, but I don't think I have. I did write a pretty long sort of write-up on Letterboxd, so maybe that's why I feel like I've talked about it, but I don't think I've shown it on camera. But it's Prometheus Garden. This is one of those DVDs that I've been hunting. It's clay animation by Bruce Bickford. He used to work with Frank Zappa. The film Baby Snakes, he appears in that, as does his animation. He was in a film called Monster Road. He was the subject of the film Monster Road, directed by Brett Ingram, which is a personal favorite of mine. And in it, he talks about his animation. We meet his dad and so on. And he talks about this film quite a bit. So I wanted to get the DVD for the film, but it was really hard to get. But I was able to find a seller selling this off for a pretty decent price. So it has the film, which is a sort of a vague retelling of Prometheus, as he brought fire from the gods to man. Or I'm a bit iffy on my mythology, but the plot is not that easy to follow actually. But it's more about the animation itself. He uses clay animation. It's really quite impressive. It's very what's the word? Crude. The animation is very crude looking. so it's not perfect, but he does it all himself. And if he were to perfect every little thing, every piece of clay, I don't think he could have finished this, because this is so ambitious, and it's only 28 minutes long, as you can see. It's from 1988, but it's really something. It's got a commentary track as well by Bruce Bickford, and he has a very pleasant voice, so he's nice to listen to. And it's only 28 minutes, so there's no reason not to. It also has a featurette, A Luck of a Foghorn, which I don't know if this was made before Monster Road. It could have been. I don't know. But it's another film by Brett Ingram about Bruce Bickford. So it's sort of like a sister piece to Monster Road, you could say, or to this indeed. Yeah, Monster Road trailer as well right here. Unfortunately, the DVDs, they are hard to get. This one, along with Monster Road, they're old DVDs that are out of print since long, so I don't know if you can find them. If you can, that I would recommend getting them. Monster Road, I've talked about Monster Road a few times over the years, but for a very interesting depiction of an eccentric and Prometheus Garden for some badass animation. Okay. I don't know what else to. This is always what I do. Oh, I don't know what next. Okay, this one. Tu mama tambien, and your mother too. I should probably stick to the English title. This is a film by Alfonso Cuaron. I used to be a very big fan of his films. I still like them, but they really used to be up there as some of my favorites. I really did like his style. But this one he made before. The only real similarity is the camera work. And I think that I know his name, but I'm not gonna sit here and think of it now. But the cinematographer, can I find him here? Oh, come on. It's not here. That's weird. What is it? Emmanuel Lubetsky, or maybe it's not Emmanuel. I apologize. It's hard to remember all these names. Well, anyway, he is the cinematographer for this as well, and he was for Cuaron's later films too. But beyond that, this is a much more. It's a dramatic film. It's a coming-of-age story. It's a beautiful film. I really did like this a lot. It's been in my collection for a while, so I'm happy to have finally seen it. Here's a pretty bland movie, but entertaining. The Medicine Man. Is that the English title? Yeah. Lorraine Bracco, Sean Connery. I'm sort of more excited about seeing Lorraine Bracco in this than Sean Connery. I feel like there was a time when there was a genre of Hollywood movies, like big budget Hollywood movies, with this adventure spirit, like this rainforest or jungle theme, and this is one of them. When did this come out? Early 90s, I guess. 1992. Yeah, it's entertaining, I guess, but it's nothing more than that. Here's one called Damage by Louis Malle. It stars Juliette Binoche, so it should be a good pairing, but this one unfortunately wasn't that interesting, and the ending was just kind of face-palmy. Yeah, I didn't completely like this actually, which is a shame. Same thing goes for this. Well, you know what? I did like it, but it's so I don't really know how to put it, but it becomes cliche, and it becomes overly dramatic, and just goes in a direction that I don't like. I always like the start of these movies, two people meeting, and especially if they're sort of opposites, or that they're not an immediately obvious pairing, if you will. But The Girl in the Cafe, it stars Bill Nighy and Kelly MacDonald. I enjoyed some of it, but it just it went in a direction that I just didn't enjoy, and became a bit lecturing maybe, even though what's being said is obviously not false, but it became a bit didactic, or a bit on the nose. I don't really know how to put it, but I didn't really like it that much ultimately, unfortunately, which is a shame, because I really do like their initial meeting and their first sort of fumbling steps, if that makes any sense. I have two films here that I like very much that I'd like to talk about as well, but that's gonna have to be it for this one. It's very long, I can imagine by now. Pink Narcissus, it's a film by James Bidgood, who released this under a pseudonym, and he never made another film. And then eventually he revealed that he made the film, but I think for a while that this was quite a mysterious film in the sort of underground queer American cinema, early 70s, 1971. He wasn't even a filmmaker, and he made this basically himself, it seems. I mean, obviously with actors and stuff, but the way he talks about it seems like he did a hell of a lot himself without really knowing how to do it, but he wanted to do it. And it's an incredibly visually striking film, and such an inventive film that I can only applaud him for making this. It's absolutely incredible. I don't know if the DVD is still in print, but it is a very nice DVD by the BFI. There's a booklet here which I haven't read, admittedly, but there's an interview with James Bidgood. I don't know when this DVD came out, but I think the interview must be at least 15 years old. But he's very entertaining to listen to, so much that I went on YouTube and I found a couple clips, and again, much later, he's very, very entertaining. And the film he made is really something, and I would suggest watching it. And the last one here that I'm going to talk about is a film by Hong Sang-soo, Right Now, Wrong Then. So the person who sent me Funuke, which I mentioned before, you also sent me the Blu-ray, the Arrow Blu-ray with Woman is the Future of Man and Tale of Cinema, both of which it's a word that I've already used in this update, but understated. They were very subtle, and I feel like they were much better than I thought they would be, and I'd like to see them again. And I knew about this DVD, and I was gonna get it, but then I waited too long, and it was out of stock. And I was kicking myself, really, almost literally. And then a few days later, I checked back, and it was back in stock, and so I got it then. But Right Now, Wrong Then, really, really moving romance story. It's not really a it is a drama, but it's very much a romance story, taking a look at this meeting between two people and how it could play out differently in two different scenarios. It's not much more than that, but of course it is, but there's not much more I can say about it here. It is a simple idea, very, very moving. It's all in the details with this film, I feel like. Really wonderful movie. I'd like to see more of them. I do know that many of Hong Sang-soo's films, they are available on Blu-ray from South Korean companies, and they are all English friendly. Some of them are region free, some of them are locked, but they're all quite expensive, and so I would love to get them, but I don't know if I can at the moment. But whenever I can see more of his films, I would love to do so. That's it for now. I'm gonna have to save my voice. For whatever reason, it's been causing me trouble all this time. But thank you so much for watching. Until next time.